We're going to talk about indirect commands, which is the first of a number of topics from Oxford Latin chapter 35. Indirect commands are a second use of the subjunctive with an ut clause. Before we do indirect commands, let's review direct commands. Commands, as you remember, are in the imperative in Latin, as we've seen. Example A, audi me Flavia, quintus imperat. Audi me Flavia, listen to me Flavia, quintus orders. This is a new word for order, similar to eubeo. Example B, adjuvate me discipuli, quintus rogabat. Help me, students, quintus asked. Notice the past tense here. And to practice our negatives, to review our negatives, we have example C, noli in silvam ire pueri, quintus monet. So, don't go into the woods, boys, quintus warns. So these are all direct commands. They're quotations. Someone is saying them to a second person or people who are there at the time. In an indirect command, as we see down here, the speaker or narrator is reporting a command that was given at some other time or place. We turn the first direct command above into an indirect command so. Quintus orders Flavia to listen to him. So Quintus orders, listen to me, Flavia, is the direct command. Quintus orders Flavia to listen to him is the indirect command. Now, why don't you guys take a look at the second ones? Well, note that there are no quotes here. Quintus didn't say these exact words. The speaker of this sentence is simply paraphrasing what happened, reporting it probably to somebody else. So, why don't you take a look at sentence B and try to turn that into an indirect command. Pause the video first. Here's the answer. Quintus asked the students to help him. Quintus asked, help me, students, goes to Quintus asked the students to help him. Example C starts with, don't go into the woods, boys, Quintus warns or advises. Quintus advises the boys not to go into the woods. Notice the negative here. On to the next topic. There are two important features of indirect commands in English that we need to talk about. Here are our sentences. Note that in each indirect command above, it's introduced by a certain kind of verb. Orders, asked, advises are in the same general category. Only verbs that express ordering, asking, persuading, encouraging, or the like can be indirect commands. You could say begged, he begged Flavia to listen to him. That might be another example. So there are similar verbs. In English, also, the indirect command is expressed by an infinitive, kind of like the purpose clauses are expressed with infinitives. These are marked in these sentences in the red. We have to listen, to help, and not to go. So let's take a look at how it goes in Latin. To see how it would go in Latin, we'd have to rephrase each of those parts in red so that we turn it into a clause that sounds kind of awkward in English. So instead of Quintus orders Flavia to listen to him, which is the nice English way to do it, we'd have to say Quintus orders Flavia so that she may listen to him. So that she may listen to him. Example B, instead of Quintus asks the students to help him, Quintus asks the students so that they might help him. Notice may here and might there. Example C, Quintus advises the boys not to go into the woods, would turn into Quintus advises the boys so that they may not go into the woods, or advises the boys that they may not go into the woods. Generally, you won't actually translate indirect commands like this. You can feel free to translate them with the infinitive, but in order to put them into Latin, you need to understand how they go together like this. Let's take a look at the Latin now. With indirect commands in Latin, you're going to have an ut and a subjunctive verb after your main verb of ordering or asking, etc. So Quintus orders Flavia to listen to him. Quintus orders Flavia so that she may listen to him. Quintus Flaviae imperat is Quintus orders Flavia. Notice this new word imperat right here has to have a dative following it or next to it. Quintus orders Flavia so that she may listen to him, so that eum to him, listen would be audiat, a present subjunctive. Right? So we will see that in Latin sentences, in indirect commands, they are going to follow the same sequence of tenses that purpose clauses do. So that imperat, notice that the ending on imperat is at, okay, because this is from impero. Okay? The ending is not erat, it's at. So that's a present tense verb. Because it's present, its primary sequence, and must be followed by a present subjunctive. Right. Next one. Quintus asked the students to help him. Quintus asked the students. Rogabat is imperfect. Right. So that's secondary sequence. That's past. So that, okay, we've got to put a him in there so that they might help him. This is aduo, aduare. And we want to make it imperfect tense, so it looks like an infinitive plus the ending, so that they might help him. Quintus discipulos rogabat ut eum adjuvarent. Quintus asked the students so that they might help him. So Quintus asked the students to help him. Example C down here. Quintus advises the boys not to go into the woods. Quintus advises the boys so that they may not go into the woods. With negative purpose clauses, with negative indirect command clauses, you use ut non. You don't use ne. We don't do the lest thing here. Right? So we're going to say Quintus advises the boys so that they into the woods in Silwam non aunt. Right? Right? Quintus advises the boys so that they may not go into the woods. Remember, the subjunctive of ire, to go, is eam, eas, eat, etc. Note also, here's a different thing, that the subject of the whole sentence does not have to be the one talking to the person. It doesn't have to be talking to the person receiving the order. So in a different kind of example, instead of Quintus advises the boys not to go into the woods, let's imagine that he's not talking to the boys. He's actually talking to the girls, for example. You could say Quintus advises that the boys may not go into the woods. Okay? He's not necessarily talking to the boys here. Okay? In this sentence, the boys would become nominative, whereas here it's accusative. Here it's accusative because it's the direct object of monad. Here it would be nominative because it's the subject of may not go. It would be the subject of aunt. So to review, an indirect command is composed of a main verb of ordering or asking, etc., plus ut, plus the subjunctive. 2. The sequence of tenses that we learned for purpose clauses is the same. That is, a present subjunctive follows a main verb that is not past. That is a primary sequence verb. Let's start getting this term primary sequence. An imperfect subjunctive follows a past verb. That is secondary sequence. And finally, we will work on this as we get into the chapter. It's vital to know the vocabulary for verbs of ordering, asking, etc. They will be used a lot, and they are big signals that an indirect command is coming up. Impero, to order. Persuadeo is another one. That's persuade. Rogo, to ask. Make sure you know those when the time comes. Thanks.